Shalom, this is Yahawah from the GMS Dallas camp. First off, I want to give all praises to Yahawah, Sham, Yahawashi. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who teach and rule well. And blessings to the Yakayam scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, keeping this truth and sincerity. I just wanted to go into this story concerning one of the books of Daniel, or one of the chapters in Daniel, because it's considered to be the book of Bel and Daniel is considered to be like one of the chapters in Daniel. I can't remember if it was the 13th or the 14th chapter, but I read it. And I thought it was pretty interesting, you know, just to have for a read. You know, I'm just gonna run through it in case any brothers want to, you know, hear the story, or you know, just so they can go see what it's all about. But it's pretty interesting to me, you know. But yeah, I'm gonna start off at the top. And the king Tiagus was gathered to his fathers, and Cyrus of Persia received his kingdom. And Daniel conversed with the king and was honored above all things, above all friends. Now the Babylonians had an idol called Bel, and there was spent upon him every day 12 great measures of fine flour and 40 sheep and fixed vessels of wine. So you know, the Babylonians, you know, they had an idol, you know, obviously called Bel, and then you know they you know pretty much put food in front of it, and you know a certain amount of food, you know, because you know it was their like way of servicing it, you know, like pretty much worshiping it. And the king worshipped it and went daily to adore it. But Daniel worshipped his own power. And the king said unto him, Why does not thou worship Bel? You know, so you know Daniel already had his power, you know, he had the Most High, you know, so he already knew who his God was. And the King Cyrus was like, man, why don't you worship Bel? You know, well, like, what's the reason? You know, so verse 5. And then this is Daniel right here, who answered and said, Because I may not worship idols made with hands, but the living power, who had created the heaven and the earth, and had sovereignty over all flesh. You know, so Daniel was like, man, because I worship something, you know, pretty much he's like, man, because I worship something that's not made with hands, that's not made of stone or wood or clay or iron or whatever it was made of, you know. I worship I worship a living power, you know, not something made by the hands of men. Verse 6. Then said the king unto him, Thinkest thou not that Bel is a living power? So he was like, man, so you think that Bel's not a living God, a living power? You know, you think it's just some thing made out of wood that doesn't move or speak or eat, you know? Seest thou not how much he eateth and drinketh every day? So he was so when he was giving so when he was doing these daily you know, giving this statue or whatever it was, you know, food and all these offerings and stuff, you know, you know, and then the next day they would be gone and shit. But you know, so that made the king think, man, this idol right here, or this so supposedly called God right here, that eats and drinks and everything. So you know, he's got to be, you know, a living power, you know. So like it says, right then said the king unto him, Thinkest not thou that the Bel is a living God? So, you know, in his head, he's like, man, this is a living God right here, you know. he eats and he drinks every day. So what more proof do I need? So verse 7. Then Daniel smiled. You know, he gave that little smirk. You know, he's like, man. But you know, then Daniel smiled and said, "O king, be not deceived, for this is but clay within and brass without, and did never eat or drink." So you pretty much, Daniel was like, man, he smirked a little bit, you know, gave that little smile, you know, like we do whenever we hear some bullshit, you know, out in the streets, we'll turn our heads a little bit and give that little smirk, smile. Daniel was the same way. He was like, what did he say? He said, "Oh king, be not deceived, for this is but nothing but clay, and brass, So what more can I tell you, and did not never eat or drink in anything." Verse 8. So the king was wroth, so the king was mad. He was like, man, and called for his priests and said unto them, "If ye tell me not who this is that devoureth these expenses, ye shall die." So he went to his priest and said, "Man, if you don't tell me who's eating me, if it's not the idol, you need to tell me right now who's been eating all the food and drinking all the drinks that we've been offering to this statue." Verse 9. But if you can certify me that Bel devoureth them, then Daniel shall die, for he has spoken blasphemy against Bel. And Daniel said unto the king, "Let it be according to thy word." So the king was like, man, okay, so if you can prove to me that that this idol is, or this statue is actually a living power, eating and drinking our offerings, then Daniel should die, and we gonna be right, pretty much. And Daniel was like, okay, let it be according to what you just said right now. Let's see how things work out. And verse 10. Now the priests of Bel were 70, beside their wives and children, and the king went with Daniel into the temple of Bel. So verse 10, it tells you his children, it mentions his children and his wives, and that comes into play later on. Verse 11. So Bel's priest said, "Lo, we go out, but thou, O king, set on the meat and make ready the wine, and shut the door saft, and seal it with thine own signet." So they got the king to pretty much to assure that after they had set up everything, that the king sealed the door and everything, just to pretty much for him to be in a peace of mind that, okay, I see the door, I put my seal on it, my signet and everything. So I'm pretty much assured that this whole thing is real, Verse 12. And tomorrow, when thou comest in, if thou findest not that Bel hath eaten up all, we will suffer death ourselves, or else Daniel that speaketh softly against us. And they little regarded it, for under the table they had made a privy entrance, whereby they entered in continually and consumed those things. So they were pretty much, man, they already in their head, they were like, oh yeah, we already got this thing down, we in the temple, inside that temple, we already have our own private entrance, so we gonna come in as we have always done, go in there, consume all the food, and then Daniel's gonna look like he was wrong, and then Daniel's gonna die, and then we gonna keep doing what we've been doing, So verse 14. So when they were gone forth, the king set meats before Bel. Now Daniel had commanded his servants to bring ashes, and thus they uh, strewed throughout all the temple in the preference of the king alone. Then went they out and shut the door and sealed it with the king's signet, and so departed. So Daniel, Daniel's wise. Daniel was wise, man. He knew what was going on, so he had to, he had to do his thing, so he pretty much set ashes throughout the floor, to see, because it's Daniel, he know what the deal was. So, Daniel was one of the wisest men, he was wise, so, verse 15. Now in the night came the priest with their wives and children, as they were wont to do, and did eat and drink up all. So like that privy entrance, that private entrance that they had known about. These priests came with their wives and their children, came up and ate all the food that the king had laid up for the offering to that idol. Verse 16. In the morning betime the king arose, and Daniel with him. And the king said, Daniel, are the seals whole? And he said, Yea, O king, they be whole. So the seals that the king set up, they were still intact. They were all together, so it had seemed that nobody had interrupted it or tried to break in or whatever. They were still there, like the king had set up. Verse 18. As soon as he had opened the door, the king looked upon the table and cried with a loud voice, Great art thou, O Bel, and with thee is no deceit at all. So the king went in there, the food was gone, and he was like, oh man, so he pretty much worshipped that idol. He was like, oh Bel, that's what's up, you ate the food, so I'm right, whatever. Verse 19. Then left Daniel and held the king that he should not go in. So so Daniel was like, he was cracking up pretty much, he was laughing. And then he grabbed the king, was like, hold on, don't go in there yet. And said, Behold now the pavement, and mark well whose footsteps are these. So he was like, man, hold on. Before you go in there, check out these footsteps right here on these ashes that I set up yesterday. So whose are these, Verse 20. And the king said, I see the footsteps of men, women, and children. And the king was angry. So the king, as soon as he saw them footsteps, man, he was like, what? Oh, shit, hell no. He was wroth, man. He was angry. He was like, he knew, when he saw that shit, he was like, man, this is some effed up shit, like, goddamn, like, we'll read on, Verse 21, and took the priests with their wives and children, who shewed him the privy doors where they came in, and consumed such things as were upon the table. So he brought all the priests and his children and his wives and everything, and brought them together, right? Therefore, verse 22, therefore the king slew them and delivered Bel into Daniel's power, who destroyed him in his temple. So he killed all of them, from the priest to his wives to his children, for being wicked, for lying to him, pretty much, like, shit, if I was him, I would do the same thing. Like, goddamn, all this time I've been made to think that this idol, this statue, has been doing all these wonders, but then I found out it was you people deceiving me, shit, to death with y'all, that's what he did. Therefore the king slew them and delivered Bel into Daniel's power, who destroyed him in his temple. And Daniel destroyed, he destroyed that idol, And in the same place there was a there's another one, another good story to read, but that was pretty much what I wanted to go into. A story that was, it was interesting to me. Daniel was a wise man. He got through that situation and handled it perfectly. Because he was a learned man. Daniel was up there. But that's all I wanted. That's all that I had. But shalom.